Hello students, very good morning to all of you. So students, first of all, just excuse me for the last 10 days. नहीं मैं आप लोगों के सामने आ पाया. For the reason being I was not keeping well. थोड़ा सा fever ultimately चल रहा था and then primarily I had to also move out couple of days. तो उस वजह से ultimately students थोड़ी सी स्थिति हेल्थ वाइज थोड़ी डावाडोल थी. Nevertheless अभी ये जो दूसरा जो अमेंडमेंट हमारा है, sorry sir, the second amendment which we are supposed to have, which is in respect of the assessment. Now इंग्लिश हिंदी वालों के लिए प्राइमरी मैं ये वाला अमेंडमेंट फिर से आप लोगों के लिए कर लूंगा. कल के सेशन में आप लोगों के लिए हिंदी वालों के लिए हो जाएगा. So today I am doing it for the English. So now students, we have already have completed the capital gains amendment. So now what we are going to do would be the amendments which are in respect of the assessment. I am going to divide the assessment amendment in two parts. Now students, I have shared this particular PDF with all of you in that particular Telegram channel which you all are in. So I've already shared this PDF. This is we are doing with the ICI material itself. Good morning, Shiva. So we are doing with the ICI material itself, students. Now, students, most importantly, Rishi, most important, students, there are two big amendments that has happened in assessment. And in all probability, students, either you will get a case study based MCQ on this, or you might get a descriptive question itself. I strongly feel that in the examination, the ICI might target, the ICI students may target the case study based MCQ on this particular part. Nevertheless, we will see ultimately what happens in the due course. So we will start off, students, with our discussion now. Students, this today we will do the reassessment particular part. So the reassessment of section 147. I will go through the entire provision. We'll do the entire provision so that primarily you know what is the position now with effect from assessment year which we are now in this new assessment year 25-26 from a particular date. So reassessment 147 to 153, the provision relating to reassessment, students, has undergone big amendment. The major reason of the amendment, students, was, I'll just give you a background. If you all are aware, earlier assessment in the case of search, assessment in the case of search was to be undertaken under section 147 itself. So under 147, we used to do the assessment in consequence of search. So after the search, the assessment thereafter was under 147 itself. This is what many of you would have known it. But now, after the amendment of 2024, they have carved out completely. Carved out means taken out. They have carved out completely the assessment in consequence of search. A separate chapter, students, on the assessment in consequence of search has been introduced. Now, what is that particular separate chapter? What is the background of that? That I will discuss with you in the tomorrow session. Today we are focusing on the reassessment of 147. What are the changes that has happened? So therefore, the position that was there earlier till last year, where in 147 section, the assessment in consequence of search that used to take place under section 147 itself. Now after the amendment, that assessment will be taken or undertaken in a separate chapter altogether. So assessment in consequence of search will be taken in separate chapter altogether. This is the first major amendment that has happened. So that is the reason why we need to know what is the scope of assessment of 147 now. After the amendment of 2024, what is the scope of the assessment of 147? That is point number one. Second particular amendment, students, that has taken place is in respect of the time limit. The time limit of doing the assessment. Students, you know, or many of you would be knowing that till last year, the maximum time limit to do the reassessment or the assessment under 147 used to be 10 years. Used to be 10 years. Now, that time limit has been reduced substantially. That time limit has been reduced substantially. So, these are the two major points of the amendment of 147 that we have to check in this context, and based on this only you will be getting a question in the exam. Based on this only, they are going to give you the questions in the exam. Apart from there are some more small changes that has taken place that I will discuss with you primarily as we proceed on 147, that I'm going to discuss in this case. But majorly, what is the background of the amendment? Primarily, I have told you the two major amendment. One is on the scope of assessment under 147 has been reduced. How it has been reduced? Because the assessment in consequence of search, that assessment in consequence of search is now covered in a separate chapter, not to be covered in 147. That is the first amendment. And the second amendment, students, what is the second amendment? The second amendment under 147 has to do with the time limit. Has to do with what? The time limit. The time limit now has been reduced in 147, which was earlier for 10 years. Now that has been reduced. What is the revised time limit for the purpose of assessment of 147? That we are going to see in the provision itself. Shall we proceed now, students? Let's start then in that case. I'm doing everything, students. I'm not taking out anything, so that even there are some small amendments which are there. Those small amendments also will be covered in the discussion in this case. So the next 45 minutes, students, would be an important one in this context, so that all the provisions of 147 is known to all of you. Again, I'm repeating, I expect a case study based question in this rather than a descriptive question. So be mentally prepared that you will be getting a case study based question. Any case, students, I'm doing it from the module covers up the entire thing. The 147 amendment, students, start with 15.80. 15.80, students, has got a first page is all about introduction, what we discussed just now. So the introduction that we discussed just now is covered in 15.80. The real dialogue starts from 15.81, the provision. Let's have a look, students, provision of section 147. Students, over here in this context, there are no changes on this one. So that what you discussed, what you know up till the last particular thing, everything remains the same, but let's discuss this one out. Income escaping assessment, section 147. If any income chargeable to tax, if you have highlighted, important words are there. When you write, see, if it is a MCQ based question, there is no issue on that. But if it is a descriptive based question, then the language is very critical, students, over here. Language is very critical. If any income which is chargeable to tax. Chargeability is attracted, students, if it falls within the scope. Say, for example, a non-resident. If on the non-resident, the assessing officer wants to issue a notice to do the assessment under 147, and the notice is in respect of the income, the notice, students, is in respect of an income which the non-resident has earned outside India as well as he has received outside India. So therefore, the question to all of you is whether that income, is it chargeable to tax? Answer is no. And where it is not chargeable to tax, you or the assessing officer doesn't have the scope to undertake 147 on those income. 147 cannot be undertaken on income which is not chargeable to tax. Is that clear to all of you? Let's read further. So, if any income chargeable to tax in case of an SSC has escaped assessment for any AY, students, the AO may, subject to the provision of 148 to 153, means the provision of 148 to 153 has to be followed if you want to do the assessment under section 147. Please repeat with me. Repeat with me. The provision or the procedure of section 148 to 153 has to be followed if the AO wants to do the assessment under 147. Can I say in a different way? If the procedure or the compliance of 148 to 153 has not been met, if the procedure or the compliance from 148 to 153 has not been met in that particular case, students, please tell me now. If that has not been met in that situation, please tell me. Yeah, there's a bit of buffering which is there. Yeah, there is a bit of buffering. Just okay. Just hang on for some moment. It will be fine. So my question to all of you was, students, that if at all, if the procedure or the compliance of 148 to 153 has not been met by the assessing officer, then whether the assessment of 147 will it be valid? Answer is no. The assessment of section 147 in that particular case, students, will not be valid. Is that point clear to all of you, students? All of you. So over here, students, please write. Therefore, the procedure of section 142 to 153 is mandatory. Students, just write this much. Therefore, the procedure of section 148 to 153 is mandatory. Is that clear? Just keep that in mind. So let's read this one again. If any income chargeable to tax in the case of an SSE has escaped assessment for any AY, the AO may recompute the loss or the depreciation allowance or any other allowance or deduction for such assessment here. What is such assessment here? Or the relevant AY? What is such AY or relevant AY? Define this. This means that the AY, that is the AY for which the income has escaped the assessment, IEA. What is relevant AY? Relevant AY is the AY for which the income has escaped the assessment, students. I hope that all of you are clear with this one. So that would be referred in 147 as the relevant AY. Okay. Now let's proceed further, students. Now this is something are the procedures. As you know, procedures are mandatory for the purpose of doing the assessment of 147. So therefore the question is, what are the procedure? Let's have a look. The assessing officer may also reassess the income in respect of any issue. Now this is important now, students. So this is important. The assessing officer may also assess or reassess the income in respect of any issue which has escaped the assessment, and such issue comes to his notice subsequently in the course of the proceedings under this section, irrespective of the fact that the provision of section 148A have been complied with or not. This is a very important particular part. The AO may assess or reassess the income in respect of any issue which has escaped the assessment, and such issue comes to his notice subsequently in the course of the proceedings. In the course of proceedings, means, students, what do you mean by in the course of the proceeding under this section? So in the course of the proceedings, students, means during the pendency of the proceedings. During the pendency of the proceeding. So in the course of the proceedings would mean, students, during the pendency of the proceedings. Is that clear to all of you? Now I'll give you an example. Supposingly I'm giving you the notice right now today. So today the notice has been given, student. Today the notices has been given. So today is, say, in this January 2025, a notice has been given for assessment year, say 23-24, for AY 23-24. For that, AO has the information that the income has escaped the assessment. So he has issued the notice and he has started with the assessment of 147. After issuing the notice and after doing some more further procedure, the assessing officer starts with the assessment. Now, students, the reason for issuing the notice for doing the assessment under 147 was that the assessing officer got some information. The information was about some capital gains income of the assessee has escaped the assessment. Some capital gains income of the assessee has escaped the assessment for AY 23-24. For AY 23-24, some capital gains income of the assessee has escaped the assessment. Now, when he is doing the assessment of 147 on that capital gains and he is getting some more details, during that point of time he came to know that apart from capital gains, some business income of the assessee also has escaped the assessment. Apart from the capital gains, some business income of the assessee has also escaped the assessment. So therefore the question to all of you is whether the assessing officer, while he is doing the assessment under 147 for that income, what was the original reason? What was the original reason why he started with 147? The original reason was capital gains, which has escaped the assessment. Now, since he is doing the assessment during the pendency of 147, he also came to know that one more income, say the business income of the assessee, has also escaped the assessment. So therefore, the question to all of you is whether the assessing officer can exercise its power under 147 to even assess the business income for AY 23-24 without issuing any fresh notice. Without issuing any fresh notice, can the assessing officer can also do the assessment or reassessment of section? Can the assessing officer can also do the assessment or reassessment under section 147 in respect of business income, that business income which he came to know during the pendency of 147? Can he do that? And the answer is yes. Definitely, students, he can do that. this is what this particular paragraph is all about. Now, this is not an amendment. This was also there in the last, from day one. Okay, but this always is an important part of the provision, student. Always. So just keep that particular point in mind. So the assessing, let's read this one again. The assessing officer may also assess or reassess the income in respect of any issue which has escaped the assessment, and such issue comes to his notice subsequently in the course of the proceeding under this section, irrespective of the fact that the provision of section 148A have not been complied with. So this is irrespective of this fact. Okay. Now, in other words, the AO may assess any income in respect of any issue that has escaped assessment which comes to his notice subsequently, that is during the course of the proceedings, means during the pendency of the proceedings of 147, even if the steps prescribed in 148A was not followed in relation thereto. So as I told you, students, some time back, that to do the assessment of 147, you have to follow the procedures of 148 to 153. That is mandatory. Now, I have followed the procedure of issuing the notice of 148A in respect of capital gains only. During the pendency of the proceedings, while the proceedings was ongoing, at that time I came to know of another income, which is the business income that has also escaped the assessment. Now, for that business income, will I have to again issue a fresh notice? And the answer is no. So, may I say in simple words that if any new income is found during the pendency of the proceedings of 147, then in respect of that new income, there is an exemption for the purpose of issuing any fresh notice. There is an exemption for the purpose of issuing the fresh notice. Fine, students. However, supposingly, students, if I say in a different way, that business income, now this was for AY 23-24 in my example, students. This was for AY 23-24 in my example. But just let's take a twist in that example. Instead of AY 23-24, say for example, this business income was pertaining to AY 21-22. So while I am doing the assessment of capital gains for AY 23-24, during the pendency of 147, I found out another income, that is the business income, which has escaped the assessment. But for which AY? But for which AY? AY 21-22. Not AY 23-24. AY 21-22. Now you tell me, in this particular case, am I supposed to issue a fresh notice? Or am I supposed to issue a fresh notice? And the answer is yes. Students, I am supposed to issue a fresh notice in this case. Is that point clear to all of you? In this particular case, I am supposed to issue, or I am duty bound to issue a fresh notice in this particular case. I hope that all of you are clear with this one. So yes, M. You got it. So if it is the same assessment here, that is AY 23-24, for which I started the assessment with capital gains, and during the pendency I found for same AY 23-24 another income, then there is an exemption to follow the procedure for this another income. You don't have to follow the procedure, which is issuing the notice. But if this was to do with another AY, if it is to do with what? Another AY, students. If there is another AY during the pendency of 147 for AY 23-24, if for another AY 21-22, you found out a new income, then for that new income for AY 21-22, are you supposed to issue a fresh notice? And the answer is yes. Perfect. Yes, sir. Yes, Shifa. Perfect. All of you students. So this covers up this particular part. So this just this is a very important particular part. Although there is no amendment in this, but I just put more effort on this particular part because of its relevant importance. Now from here onwards, students, small amendment has started. We will discuss each and every particular part of it. But students, one important point I just wanted to discuss with all of you before I proceed. I am, students, prepared while I was not keeping well, I had prepared, students, one beautiful particular Q&A for all of you for non-resident taxation. Now this NR taxation, students, the question and answers and all which are being there, this is as per the amendments and everything. This will help you also to revise your international taxation. These are the top rated questions, students. The top rated questions of NR taxation. And I'm telling you, students, the toughest question of NR taxation, students, are prepared for all of you. So this I intend to do with you because I've prepared those particular PDF in this case while I was not that particular well in this last particular 10 days or so. So I've made those particular PDF, and these are such a fantastic particular question bank on NR taxation that you do that, your practicals is going to get over, including the amendments, including the whatever other changes that has happened has been incorporated in those particular things. So that is one thing which I just want to do with all of you so that you have a strong grip. This is not only going to be helpful for your direct tax paper, which is your fourth paper, but also that IBS paper. Because in that the case study I have seen the certain patterns. Obviously the patterns of the last particular attempt, I may say that they were more like, or last two attempts, like okay, FM was there in this. But I felt that if a direct tax case study has to be targeted, how they are going to target in this context. So I have, but from the point of view of international taxation, I have made those kind of a case study, including the MCQs and all. So that way you will have a very good grip for your for your international taxation paper number 4 as well as this IBS paper. So that I intend to do with all of you. Might be you can say this Sunday we can just take off with this particular part, because this any case this assessment amendment will take me only one more day, so that we'll be done with it tomorrow. So I think Sunday I can share with you that particular PDF, and then we can just do that. Helpful for you would be you can revise your non-resident taxation as well, including the amendments, including with the practicals. That capital gains changes, we have seen multiple changes of capital gains has happened. Those capital gain changes you will now be in a position to apply in those NR taxation provision, which is that particular question which I have prepared. Beautiful question, best question. And ICI cannot go beyond this. ICI can be between this, but the level of the question is such that ICI level cannot exceed the level of the question which has been prepared. Okay, you'll enjoy this one, students, tremendously. Let's have a look, students, over here first. Now, students, what we are doing, point number 2. Point number 2 is about what, students? Is about the procedures to be followed. So if I have to do 147, I have to do immediately, students, I have to issue a notice under 148A. That is the first step primarily that I have to do. Now this, students, that what 148A has to do, this in 148A, students, the assessing officer has to follow a procedure to get himself satisfied. He need to get himself satisfied whether or not this is a fit case of 147. Whether or not this is a fit case of 147. So therefore, in 148A, assessing officer is going to undertake procedures or undertake inquiry so as to get himself satisfied whether this particular case is a fit case of 147 or not. Is that clear to all of you? So therefore, what exactly it is? Let's have a look. Students, 148A, where the assessing officer has information which suggests that income chargeable to tax has escaped the assessment in the case of an assessee for the relevant AY, he shall, before issuing any notice under section 148, provide an opportunity of being heard to such assessee by serving upon him a notice to show cause as to why a notice under 148 should not be issued in his case. A show cause. So therefore, 148 is what? A show cause notice. Show cause notice for what? that why I should not issue 148 notice and start 147 on you. Why I should not issue on you what? 148 notice and start 147 on you. Because the moment I give you 148, students, be careful. The moment I sent on you 148, it means it will be a start of 147. So you start 147 by issuing 148. But before that, whether this is a fit case of 147 or not, the AO himself needs to get satisfied. So the satisfaction the AO will have to do by following the procedure of 148A. The satisfaction that the AO will have to do will be after following the procedure of 148A. And what is that 148A? 148A, he will give him a notice. Notice asking him what? Notice asking him that tell me the reason why I should not pursue on you. Sorry. Tell me the reason why I should not pursue on you 147. Show me the reason. And very important point, students, now. This notice of 148A, this notice of students 148A should be accompanied with the information in the possession of the AO. This is very important. 148A plus the information which is in possession of AO. This is the case, students. And such notice to show cause shall be accompanied by the information which suggests that the income chargeable to tax has escaped assessment for the relevant AY. Is that point clear to all of you? Every one of you are clear with this one? This is an important point, students. I'm telling you why this is an important one, students. Before 148A, this is actually the amendment that has happened. I don't know whether you people are aware or not. Those who have read the provision prior to 2021 or so, these people would be aware of this point. Before 2021, students, the reason why I want to do 147 on you, that was not supposed to be given at all. That was not supposed to be given. They never used to give the reasons. They only give the notice. And they used to give the notice, ask the SSC that SSC, I want to do 147 on you. Kindly you file the return. Please file the return. I don't want to hear anything else. Please file the return. SSC was saying, but why? What is there in your possession that you want to issue or you want to do 147 on me? What is there with you? What is there in your hand that you want to pursue 147 on me? AO used to say, no, that I'm not going to disclose. I am giving you the notice of 148 and directly I want to do 147 on you. Please file the return of income. In fact, there were Supreme Court judgment also that used to say that Mr. SSC, please keep quiet. If the AO has issued to you a notice of 148, you will have to file the return. Please don't ask the question to the AO that what is in the possession of the AO that he wants to do with on you 147. What is in the possession in the hands of the AO that he wants to do on you 147? That question you cannot ask at this stage. Please oblige by filing the return of income which the AO has called for. So SSC had no other choice. SSC had students no other choice but to file the ROI. So SSC used to file the ROI. Once the ROI was filed, only then the AO was then supposed to furnish that information to whom? To the SSC. So till the time the SSC has filed the return, the AO never used to disclose what is that information that he had which triggered this 147. But now see the amendment which is there. This is not a new amendment, family. This is not the amendment of last year. This is the amendment of 2001, 2021. So that, see the amendment that has happened. Now based on this amendment, as we know, an 148A has to be done first. Before issuing 148 notice, 148A has to be done first. What is 148A? 148A is nothing but an inquiry or the procedure which will enable the AO to satisfy himself on what? That whether or not this is a fit case of 147. So this is 148A. Okay, so 148A is giving the AO an opportunity to satisfy himself whether or not this is a fit case of 147. This is something which the AO will have to do first. And when he issues the 148A notice, and what is the content of the notice? The content of the notice is, in that notice of 148A, the assessing officer is asking the assessee to furnish the reason. The assessing officer is asking the assessee to furnish the reason that why he should not be doing the assessment under 147. So assessee will have to furnish the reason why the AO should not be doing 147 on him. Now, as I told you, 148A notice will be accompanied with, this is the important part, 148 notice will be accompanied with the information in the position of the AO. This never used to happen earlier, students. In fact, earlier 148A was not there at all. Earlier, directly there was 148. Earlier means I'm talking about 2021. I'm talking about 2021. Okay. So therefore, this is what it is. Now the position. So therefore, the position is that this is an important one, students, because the MCQ question, they will ask you this question, that whether the assessing officer, is he required to furnish the reason or the information that is there in his position which led him to a kind of a conclusion of what? Conclusion that this is a case of 147. So is he supposed to furnish the reason at the time of issuing the notice under 148A? Answer is yes. Answer is yes, students. Fine, this is an important particular part. Just keep that particular part in mind. Okay. And such notice to show cause shall be accompanied by what, students? Shall be accompanied by information which suggests that the income chargeable to tax has escaped the assessment in the case of the relevant AY. Now the assessee has got the notice of 148A. So on the receipt of notice, which notice? Notice of 148A, the assessee may furnish his reply within such period as may be specified in the notice. Point number 3. The AO shall, on the basis of material available on record, so whatever the material that he has, plus what? And taking into account reply of the assessee. So material plus reply, he will pass an order. So material plus reply, he will pass an order with the prior approval of the specified authority. Who is the specified authority, students? These are the specified authority of 151. So pass an order with the prior approval. What is the order? Whether or not it is a fit case of doing the assessment of 147. And if it is a fit case of doing the assessment of 147, then for that, whether he has to issue the notice, under 148, and the answer is yes. If it is a fit case of 147, then he will have to issue the notice under 148. Is that clear to all of you, students? Perfect. Now the provision of this section shall not apply to income chargeable to tax. This is just for, leave this point number 4. Now, if it is a fit case, students, point number 3 will happen now. If it is a fit case, he concluded, yes, it is a fit case. Now, if it is a fit case, then what is the next step? So he has concluded. Please understand, huh? He has passed the order. Do you know what has happened? Students, 147, to do 147, there are two proceedings. Proceeding 1 and proceeding 2. Proceeding 1 is issue the notice under section 148A. After that, reply plus material. Reply from whom, students? Reply from SSE. Plus material. And thereafter, students, pass an order. Pass an order after approval. After approval. So this is known as proceeding 1. When you say proceeding, students, what does it mean? Proceeding has got important thing, students. Whenever I say, or in the income tax law, we say that the proceeding has been started. Do you know what is the ingredients of any proceedings? What are the ingredients of the proceeding, students? The ingredients of the proceeding is that the notice has to be given. That is the first step. The notice has to be given, students. That is the first step. And after the notice, students, the order has to be passed. So anything that, if there is a notice and from the notice thereafter an order is passed, it means there is a proceeding that has taken place. Always bear this point in mind. Students, always bear this point in mind that if supposingly there is a notice that has been given and after the notice, after some time, finally an order is passed, then it means that this is a proceeding by itself. That is a proceeding by itself. So pass an order, students, under which section? Under section 148A. So the order was also passed under 148A. So this is one full-fledged proceedings that has happened. Now, students, what happens in this case? Two things can happen in the order. Not a fit case. Not a fit case. Or what, students? Or it is a fit case. Fit case for 147. Not a fit case for 147. And second one is fit case for 147. If it is a fit case for 147, then you will enter into our second particular proceedings. Now what happens over here? Here you will start with issuing the notice. Notice under section 148. Then return would be filed. Then other procedure, and finally pass an order. And this order would be under section 147. And that is the reason why. So you will enter into your proceeding number 2. Can you see that? And what is the proceeding number 2? Start with the notice. Which notice? Notice under 148. And finally end with the order. Order under which section? 147. In proceeding 1, you start with the notice of 148A and you end with the order of 148A. And in that order of 148A, you have to decide whether or not it is a fit case for 147 or not. If it is a fit case of 147, then you will enter to second proceedings. And what is the second proceeding, students? The second proceeding is issue the notice under 148 and thereafter returns would be filed in response to the notice of 148. Then other procedures would be followed and finally the order would be passed. As I told you, students, any proceedings has got two important ingredients. Which are the two important ingredients? One is the issue of notice, and finally the issue of notice is a start point of the proceedings. The issue of notice is the start point of the proceedings. And what is the end point of the proceedings? The end point of the proceeding is passing of an order. The end point of the proceeding, students, is the passing of an order. I hope that all of you are clear with this one. Every one of you. Perfect. That's exactly the point, students. So with this, students, we are done with this particular part in this regard. Now, students, please have a look to point number 3. Issue of notice where income has escaped the assessment, section 148. Before making the assessment, reassessment or recomputation under 147, the AO shall, subject to the provision of 148A, issue a notice under section 148 to the assessee along with the copy of the order passed under 148A. So what happens in this case? In this case, he will issue 148 notice, this 148 notice plus with the order of 148A. In that order of 148A, what will be written? In that order of 148A, students, what it will be written? Whether it is a fit case or it is an unfit case. Definitely it is a fit case. Only then, if it is a fit case, that the notice of 148 is given. Isn't it? And that exactly the point. Point number B. Students, point number B. Requiring the assessee to furnish within such period as may be specified in the notice, not exceeding 3 months from the end of the month in which such notice is issued, a return of his income or income of any other person of whom he is assessable under the Act during the previous year corresponding. This is an important one. This is a new provision, students, of the last budget 2024. Earlier, students, there was no time limit. See what used to happen earlier, students. Be careful. Earlier, there used to be no time limit. Like what used to happen earlier was that once I give the notice of 148, in that 148 notice, I will call the assessee to file the return of income for the relevant AY. Now, in that notice, I used to tell the assessee, in that notice itself, I used to tell the assessee as to within how much time from the receipt of the notice, within how much time from the receipt of the notice that the assessee is required to file the return. So in the notice, I have to write that, look, boss, within say 15 days, within 20 days, within 1 month from the receipt of this notice of 148, kindly file the return for that relevant AY. So therefore, it became discretionary on the part of the assessing officer. And because it became discretionary on the part of the assessing officer, we used to find that in some of the notice, the duration that was given was too less. Like for example, 10 days. If I have to take a revenge from that assessee for not taking care of me in last festival season or in my vacation trip, he didn't took care of me. So therefore, to take a revenge from him, I used to give a very less time limit in that notice. I used to say in 1 week's time, kindly file the return for that AY. And in some cases, there was a lot of luxury of time that was given, say in a month's time, say in 1.5 months' time, so 2 months' time. So there were a lot of deviations that used to happen from case to case. Now that discretion on the part of AO to allow the time to the assessee, that discretion is taken away, students. This is the amendment. One of the amendment. One of the small amendment. So now, what is the position, students? Okay, let's read this one again. Point number B. Requiring the assessee to furnish within such period as may be specified in the notice, not exceeding 3 months from the end of the month in which such notice is issued, a return of his income or any other income in respect of whom he is assessable under this act during the previous year corresponding to relevant EY. So students, in this case, say for example, I am giving him the notice. Notice is issued under section 148 in Jan 25. Okay. Notice is issued in Jan 25. Okay, to file ROI for AY 21-22. Okay. Now you tell me by when the return has to be filed. Now, in response to the notice, we can say the maximum. This could be an MCQ based question, so be careful. The maximum time limit. And one more thing which is there, it is from issued, a notice issued. So from the end of the month, maximum time limit, end of Jan 25 plus 3 months. February, March, April. So it becomes to 30th April. So this is the maximum time limit to file the ROI, students. Maximum time limit to file the ROI. Please take a note of this one. So this is one of the amendment which has been there. Earlier it was not there. So this would be an MCQ based question, students. Be careful, students. There can be a possibility when they can tell you the notice was issued under 148 in Jan 25, but it was served. Notice, say like this, they will tell you. Notice is served in February 25. Are you aware of the difference between issue of notice and service of notice? Are you aware of it or not, students? Please copy it on this chart first, quickly. Yes, students. So this is, students, from the issued. The 3 months that we are talking about it is from the issue of the notice. So just be very, very careful. Issue of the notice. Fine, students. Now, if supposing, students, be careful, students, in this regard. If the SSC, you need to make this observation also. Please take a note of this one. If the SSC files the return till this period, then the assessment will be based on the return. If the SSC files the return till this period, students, then the assessment will be based on the return, which means scrutiny assessment. Which assessment, students? Scrutiny assessment. This is the new point, as per the amendment now. Whereas if he files over here, means after the 3 months, if the SSC files the return after the expiry of 3 months, so it will be a best judgment assessment. Very dangerous. In 147, if you are giving the AO the power to do a best judgment assessment, in 147, students, if you are giving the AO the power to do the best judgment assessment, then can you imagine the kind of danger that you are already into it? So if it is within 3 months that the return has been filed, no issue. The return would be based on, the assessment would be based on the return, which means like a scrutiny assessment they are going to do. But if the return is filed after the expiry of 3 months, then the nature of the assessment, students, would be like a best judgment assessment. And this becomes very dangerous because in 147 now you are giving the power to the AO to do a best judgment assessment. So never think of not complying with the notice of 148, wherein if you are called upon to file the return within 3 months, please do it and file the return within 3 months. I hope that all of you are clear with this one, students, in this case. Now, students, herein, what is this information on the basis of which, what is it? This is the same thing, old one. So we are not doing anything new. This every one of you are aware. Now, this is one thing which I just want all of you to read this one, because from here onward, students, the amendment is going to begin. Just read, students, this particular part carefully, all of you. From here onward, students, the amendment is going to begin. The hardcore amendments are going to begin. So kindly, students, read this one, students, and you just need to excuse me, students. I need to rush through it. Family, just an urgent appointment has come, so I just need to rush through it. Any case, we are going to continue tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll complete this one because now it's a small area which is left on the amendment particular part. And after that, students, we will jump into the block assessment, that the new chapter of the assessment in the case of search. But students, just I want to request to all of you, in page number 15.83, please read this particular part. 15.83, please read this particular part. So tomorrow also same time, morning 7:30, we are going to meet up in this context. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow same time, students, morning 7:30.